What's good, family? This is Black Families Rising, where we bring the black family to the forefront. Hi, I'm Grinder.
Hi, I'm Jasmine.
And we are the founders of Black Families Rising podcast and blog.
We are dedicated to discussing the negative and positive things that are happening in our communities.
And finding solutions to the issues that we experience every day.
We are the Black family.
Rebuilding our legacy together.
Keep striving.
Keep rising. All right. Thank you guys for joining us again. Here we are at Black Families Rising, where we bring the black family to the forefront.
All right.
So we have a nice little discussion today, and we have two people on our panel today. We have Brother Scott, and then we have Miss Jamie. My name is Grinder Spencer. This is my lovely wife and co-host, Jasmine Miller. So we're just going to get right into it today. With what our question is of today, and it is the black family. What is fact and what is myth? There's a lot of misconceptions about us as a community, and especially as a family. A lot of things that people believe about us that just are not true. But then there are some things that are true about us. So what is the myths and what are the facts? So whoever wants to go first.
Normally, I would offer to the queens to go first, unless you'd like me to take up the banner there, Jamie.
I think a myth about the black family would be most black families are on welfare. Most black families have poor eating habits. A lot of black families don't take up time with their kids because they're working all the time. Some true things about a black family, black people within the family dynamic, whether it's grandparent, father, cousin, or whatever, they want their kids or their younger generations to succeed. So they try to push them, hey, are you getting good grades? On their birthday, they might say, hey, let me see your report card. Here's $2, $3. Black people teach their kids about finances, but it's just what they were taught. So we do learn finances.
Yeah.
Our kids do go to school. Mm-hmm. And we are on them about their homework. It's not like the kids just, come home and don't do homework. We do educate our kids at home.
I agree with everything you said there, Jamie. I would add to it that a myth that I feel is prevalent is so many black families are broken homes. One, you can't define homes as broken based on other people's definition of what they feel a whole family is. Right. There are many homes and families that are different, but not inherently broken. Whether or not they're single parent households, foster households, untraditional households in any regard, if there's love, if there's nurturing, if there's understanding in that household is not inherently broken. And it's unfair to those children and those families to call them broken just because they don't look like what you think they should look like.
Right.
Another myth is that the black unicorn in black society is a black man with his son. Black men don't take care of their sons. Right. That's not true. That is not true. Are there black men out there that do leave and do? Yes, there are. But I know as a father of 3 sons, I know of many of my friends who have their sons and their children. They're present in their lives and they are being fathers and helping to rear and raise them to be young black men and contributing members of society. We are not unicorns. We actually exist. And, some facts about the Black family that I think about are the fact that we care so much for each other in a family dynamic. I'm sure other cultures can attest to this, but speaking primarily from the Black family structure, I remember a story my father told about his father saying, and there were 10 kids, 10 kids. And he made it very clear to all the siblings, if your brother is in a fight and you come home clean, you're getting a beating worse than he got out in the street. Don't come home to me
Heard that.
clean to tell me your brother is getting beat up.
Right.
Don't leave your sibling out there alone in the street. We all fight for each other. And there's something to be said in a family how there are many stories of how we've stood up for each other. I think that's something that is definitely a fact. Could it be done a lot better in a much broader sense of the Black culture and how we can look out for each other? Yes. But looking at it from the family, I think it's fact. You don't mess with one unless you want all of them.
That's true. I think we touched on some key things. I think touching back on what you were saying about the fathers is a real good one, because that's a really huge myth that a lot of us are deadbeat dads. We're not in our kids' lives. We don't take care of them. We don't, you know what I'm saying, take them on trips, vacations. We don't, they just look at us like we just don't have anything, nothing to show for it. And we don't spend time with our children and do things that, other people or other cultures do. We go on trips. You know what I'm saying? We don't just go to Disneyland. Some of us are starting to go back to the motherland and travel to Africa. Some of us are taking our kids to, to learn new things over in Washington, D.C. at the Museum of Black History. So it's a lot of different things that we do that they try to say that we don't do. But when it comes to us as Black fathers, that's a very huge misconception. I had to deal with a lot of situations and being there in my kids' lives, but was, for whatever reason or the other, what I'm saying, it was say, oh no, he doesn't do this, he doesn't do that, he doesn't take care of them. And I got receipts.
Exactly.
Yeah, like I could prove, look, what I bought, I did this, I took him here, did that. And it's not just the materialistic side of it. I've always taught my children a lot of things, a lot of spiritual things. At one time I was a little more religious than I would say I am now. But I always, read the Bible or the Quran to my kids. I always played basketball, baseball, football with them. So the misconception that all Black men or most Black men are deadbeat fathers and don't do these things with their kids, that's totally preposterous. Seriously. And that's a myth that definitely needs to stop, because there's a lot of us that have coached our kids through college, you know what I'm saying, through their football or basketball career, but you don't talk about those fathers.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? You only want to highlight the fathers that have been in trouble, had alcohol abuse. Yeah, that's how they do. They love their alcohol and they reefer or whatever. And that's all we are. And it's more than that. Also, the misconception that all young Black men are thugs or drug dealers. That's definitely not true.
True.
Not only that, some of these myths and misconceptions are dangerous and
very true,
and cost the lives of many of us, many of our young men, because we are assumed to be a threat. We are assumed to be dangerous. We are assumed to be, there to bring trouble. And it's such a shame. And where you have myth, now you have it combining with fact, because fact is, I am and I'm sure you've had the conversation. I've had to have the conversation with my children about how to interact with law enforcement, how to interact with society, how to interact with people, and what to do, what not to do, what to expect. My eldest just got his driver's license, and I had to, let him know so that he would not find himself hopefully in a serious situation if he got pulled over.
Right.
And why does that become fact? Because we're dealing with a myth about us.
Yep.
Yeah. I definitely agree about the misconception of men being a part of the lives of our children in our community. And I think a part of it is like when you get, when you not really making as much income, you go to the welfare office and, you get food stamps and stuff like that. And I really started noticing the questions they ask you, right? Like it could be something small. You just, your job wasn't paying as much or whatever. You just needed something extra, something extra just to help you get by for a little bit of time. And the questions they ask will be, where's the father? And even if I was like, okay, they're a part of their lives, they're there at this time, they just can't help. This
Right.
doesn't mean, that they're bad or anything like that. And then they're like, well, why isn't he on child support? In order for us to help you, we have to put them on child support, right? So is that, and most women, because you need that support at the time, you have to feed your kids. If you don't feed your kids, you get your kids taken away, and then this whole systematic thing happens. So then of course you go in and say, hey, well, I have to put them on child support because I need this right now because my kids have to eat, so is that system too, that, and then, and we try to go back and take them off, when we get off, I went back and took them off. So, I played them back, but, but it is those questions. And that's why we get those stereotypes, because then that's documented on, how many men is on child support, because they automatically assume if you're on child support, that's all you're doing for your child. You're just paying child support. So now you have these fake statistics that they come up with, because now all these men on child support, and they mostly Black men, because the parent is in need of, maybe some health insurance or some food stamps or something for a minimum amount of time.
Right.
So is that, our next question was going to be, where do these myths come from? And that is a part of it, it's systematic as well.
Well, I think some of these myths come from an absolute absence of factual information, and factual representation. And what I mean by that is, I'll give you a great example. One of the few movies that I can point directly to and show a Black father all about raising his Black son by any means necessary. Will Smith in The Pursuit of Happiness. Now, and I'm going to be honest with you, transparent, it brought tears to my eyes. Okay. I got emotional in that movie. How many other movies can we name where we see that visually represented?
Mm-hmm.
We would literally have to do some research to come up with, I'm sure there are, we could say, I'm sure there are others, but it's not like there's a wealth of those names that come to mind.
Right.
There is just this visceral nature of a father wanting to do right by his son because that's who he is and that's what he needs to do. And my issue is, in an absence of knowledge, what is born is ignorance. And then ignorance upon ignorance just grows more ignorant. And that's where you get many of these myths from. And they become so pervasive, they bleed back into the culture, and we begin to believe it ourselves and speak it ourselves to each other. Oh, everybody else is late. Colored people time.
Yep, Black people time. Me and my mom had that conversation recently. And my mom was like, because we had this engagement that we was talking about, before this. And I was like, well, people gonna show up. It started, 1:30. People gonna probably be there about 1:45, 1:50, because that's Black people time. So so then my mom was like, no, it's everybody's time. Like it's whatever time you want to get there. And so I was like, yeah, but we just laugh about stuff like that, because my mom was starting to come out of, her, learning, and to come out of her habits and stuff that she's developed from her parents. And she's now finding out, how wrong they were. And so she's coming out of it too. So I just throw some stuff out there to see if she'd catch it. But it's just funny that we do that to each other, And Scott hit on our next topic. He just answered one one of the other questions, which is pretty much, why do we feed into this as Black people? Why do we feed into these myths and stereotypes so much? And I particularly think it's because some of us have never pretty much went past our community or our surroundings. We stayed where we are, and what we see every day is what we believe. So it's easy to believe, if you never went outside your environment and your surroundings to see what else is out there. And it's the same thing as we hear this common slogan, these, women ain't nothing and these men ain't nothing, pretty much all the time. And it's like, no, the ones you meet and the ones you see is a bunch of nothing, the ones you attract is nothing, the ones you looking for in your particular surroundings. And most people, I find, that say those type of things never moved out of their city, or only went to maybe 2 or 3 states and lived there and then moved back home. It's, they never really traveled and saw the world. So it's just that environment. So I think a majority of it has to do with our environment, and not going, outside of it to see what is really true and what is really out there as well.
I was gonna say, I think that unfortunately, because of the white supremacist system, a lot of Black people don't have the privilege to live carefree. They can't be carefree. They're always in survival mode. So when they see other Black people or other families that are living carefree or without having to code switch and all that other stuff, they're like, they get frustrated by it because they have to do it, because that's the only way that they know. Right. And like the area that I'm in, that's like everybody here. So they'll say, why you acting white? Why, they still a lot of Black people. That's all they know, because that's indoctrinated in them to think that reading it equals success, which equals whiteness, which equals not here. So they think, I guess you could kind of say, small-minded. And a lot of TV shows from the 90s or whatnot used to portray country Black people as the country bumpkin, whatever. So I feel like in the South, it's really, really rooted in that they take on the white supremacist role, especially in small situations like at work. You got that Black guy that is, investigating everybody so that they could be the white supremacist of the job.
Right.
It's a lot of different types of people within our community too that want to be, well, they don't necessarily want to be white supremacists, but that's what they feel like is success, white supremacy. But they don't know it. They just doing it unconsciously. They don't know that's what they're doing.
Right.
But that's what they're doing.
I made it.
Black Families Rising will return right after this commercial break.
A brief guest appearance at college, and shortly thereafter went into the military. And when I got deployed the first time to the Gulf, that was the moment for me that really revealed my corner that I grew up on. I remember arriving in Kuwait. I was there on a black op, and we were doing protection of the base that was the very first place Iraq invaded when they invaded Kuwait. I was there years after for a different mission, and just seeing everything was still, they still had bullet holes and stuff, this, that, and the other, and blah blah blah. But it was just one of those moments to look beyond where I came from, look beyond what I knew, and it was the start of me understanding, expanding, I should say, my horizons, my viewpoint, my perspectives.
Right.
And not everybody is going to, and not everybody will, but once your perspective is expanded, your viewpoint is enlarged, there comes a point where you can't even deal with, not so much tolerate, but just can't deal with someone whose perspective is so small, because it's like, a turtle trying to talk to a giraffe.
Right.
You don't see the world the same way.
Right.
And on the same plane. So it just won't work.
Right.
So there are a lot of people who really need to get a much broader view of the world instead of just from where the porch they grew up on.
Yes, that's true. Well, our end question is always how to find a solution to get our people out of, believing these myths, and, to really live and start to, learn what is really out there outside of their surroundings.
I feel like right now, since everybody's watching TV and on the internet all the time, I feel like we have to have people on the ground that's educating people on how to do research with TV, what you're already watching, how, create different playlists of TV shows that will kind of change the way they thinking about the Black family dynamic. I'm not talking about Blackish. That's a
Right.
bad example. So we got to, try to find spaces, put our people in spaces so that they could be seen by a lot of our people. But let's just be honest. When it come down to that, we got to want to know how to be it. We got to want to change. We got to know there's a problem. So in order for our people to move forward, I feel like we have to educate them. I feel like this time is the time of education, where we need to be out here telling people, hey, everybody is not like this.
Right.
There's things that you could do to improve your life right now, and you don't have to adhere to different code switches and all this other stuff. We got to help people at the ground level to change their mentality, because those are the people that are the consumers. Those are the people that are influencing what Beyonce and all of these celebrities do.
Right.
We have the control. We have to quit putting our money where it does not belong. If we take out our trillions of dollars, because there are trillions of dollars, if we take out our trillions of dollars and encourage our people, hey, hold on to your stimulus check for a day. Don't go to the mall in your area for a day. Different things like that. Because I think we did pretty good with Nike when it was like, don't go buy any Nike. If you have Nike, tear it up. And then the Black Friday, I think we did really good with the Black Friday, because a lot of Black people in my little bitty town of less than 10,000 people did not shop. So I feel like if we could, strategically get it out there like we did those things, I feel like a lot of good change could happen.
I agree
great
with that.
point.
I also want to say I like what you were saying about the entertainment field and whatnot. I think that is a huge one, because we're seen as being savages and drug dealers and murderers and prostitutes and whatever have you. And the industry itself pushes that agenda. especially when it comes to rap music and some R&B music. You know,
Right.
they are pushing this agenda. Everybody has to be the bad boy. Everybody has to be the R&B thug. You know, I don't know how many more R&B thugs we had after R. Kelly, who was the first one. They're saying, like, they're having a poll, like, okay, how many people, like you were saying, we need to find out a way to strategically, you know, look into that. And that's what they've done. They created polls, and you know, they got the, what is it, the thing, that the TV thing they have where they can tell you, you know, what programming a lot of people are watching.
Nielsen ratings.
Right, the Nielsen ratings. You know, they have stuff like that. We need to have stuff like that as well, because like you were saying, they're using these polls and these ratings, and they're saying, okay, well, you know, from the age of 13 up to 18, they're listening to this. Then from the age of 18 on to 25, they're listening to this, you know, and so on and so forth. And they're looking at these things and they're saying, okay, well, you know, they got this new movie now just coming out about, oh, some glorified drug dealer who, you know, now that he's old and he went to jail or whatever, he comes back and tries to, you know, save the community. So they use stuff like this, and now they making soundtracks and stuff about it. And some of the music is garbage.
Right.
But the
A lot
industry,
of the music is garbage.
they're saying, put this stuff out, put this message out. And they're targeting our young with a lot of these messages. Don't get me wrong. I love my hip hop music. I've done it myself for years, making music beats and this and that and the other. But the way things are going now, and the way these videos are, and the way they're, you know, portraying us, is continuing these myths. You know, they're letting these myths continue.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? When you start, you know, and it seems like the more we're saying buy black, you know, talking more about our black experience, trying to shine light on police brutality, they're combating us with more negative, stereotypical black characters. And it's, I mean, it's really sickening. And you would think, you know, in the 80s and 90s, you know, okay, y'all deem this as acceptable, but up to now, the way things have changed, you would say, okay, we have to change that, switch it around. And it's not happening. It's actually happening more now, you know, and it continues these myths and what people think about us and the perception that people have, instead of actually looking into it or doing your research, if you have to, on who we really are. You know, you just take everything as face value when it comes to us as black people and as a black community.
Well, the thing that people got to remember when it comes to the entertainment industry, all these individuals, these young mumble rapping, whatever, half dressed, quarter dressed, barely dressed, if anything, two bottle caps and a band-aid or something. I mean, you have to understand that when they're starting out, they're desperate folk who now are being offered a ton of cash if they're willing to compromise X, Y, and Z. And so now you got someone in a position where they can get out, and all they have to do is shake a little or cuss a little or act a fool. And many of these people don't have the street cred to be rapping about the street cred that they have.
Right.
Okay. But they're being offered a ton of cash. And why are they being offered a ton of cash? Because it's going to pump more music into a system that people are going to buy. So, you know, it's self-perpetuating, as opposed to people being able to stand up with character and say, I'm not going to compromise myself or my culture and my people by allowing you to portray us that way, or have me portray myself that way. They're doing it for cash. And, you know, on one hand, you get it, because, hey, everybody is trying to get somewhere, but at some point you have to say, listen, there has to be a line, there has to be character, there has to be a point, and not only for yourself, but also for what you're doing for everybody else.
True.
Now, to get back to your original question, if I may, as far as what can we do, for myself, and I love Jamie's answer, by the way, which she managed to do while wrangling her children there. Hey, good on you. For me, two things that I would point out that I'll share. One, on multiple occasions, I've thrown my kids in the car, especially once I started taking my oldest for his driving lessons. And I would take them to towns where there are multi-million-dollar homes. And I mean like not the one or two, but like 10, $20 million homes. And they would be looking out the window of the car with like drool and their tongue out and everything. Dad, there's like 2 basketball courts, full-size basketball courts in their backyard. And I'd look at them and I would snap at them. I said, get the shock off your face. You're looking at somewhere where you can live.
That's right.
If you put the work into it. I'm normalizing in my kids the thought of where they could go and what they could be. Because where that shock came from, they're looking at something unconsciously. If you're responding to it with shock, you're seeing something that is beyond you. And I am normalizing for them what's not beyond them, where they can go, what they can reach, to the point where when we drive through that town, they barely even look up from their phones now.
Right.
You know, it's like, oh, it's that place again. It's that place. You know, the place with the helo pad in the backyard. Yeah, it's that place again. You know, and the other thing is, I think we also need to pay attention to those things that we say in our own culture that denigrate who we are and are accepted as just, you know, that we need to, you know, go back and start removing that from our vocabulary, because we're tearing ourselves down. You know, just like we had that conversation before about colored people time. I remember hearing somebody flip it perfectly to the point where nobody in this conversation would ever use it again. And they said, so just explain to me why when any other culture shows up a couple minutes after, they're late, but with Black people, it's colored people time.
Right.
Suddenly it's like, oh. And we want to start unadopting those things that were put on us that we're carrying around and should not be, because we don't want to pass those things on. So those would be my 2 points to you.
Okay. Well, thank you very much. And I agree with what you guys were saying. I think we really do, you know, I appreciate you for doing that for your children. I think a lot of us need to really do that, because we do need to normalize that and let them know that, you know, we can do those things. Hey, we have done those things and more. So, but that's for another podcast. But yeah, we do. We need to normalize those things, and we need to, as all things, it's the mindset. You know, we need to change that mindset, and you know, and honestly, we really just need to stop doing some of those things, you know, and feeding into the stereotypes and the negativity, and saying, well, if that's all I'm gonna ever be, oh well, you know, because I mean, some of us, we don't make it no better. We don't. Some of the young, you know, that's out here, they're misguided. They're in the gangs, and they feel like they're not getting the love from family or whatever, so they do stuff they shouldn't. Some of us, for some reason, are still stuck in that mode and continue on with the same bad habits and bad attitudes that we always have. And therefore, nothing changes. It just continues to stay the same and stay the norm. So if we want to break these myths, you know, and these misconceptions, then we need to break away from what we are perceiving to be the norm. And if we stop perceiving these things about themselves, I believe honestly that other cultures and whatnot, you know, ethnic groups will start doing the same. It'll change their perception as well. And I think that's key, you know, is to changing the perception of things.
I don't think we gonna be able to change their perception. I just think we could just be a little bit more cohesive.
All right, influence it a little bit more, you know. I mean, Yeah. What?
I think the way you change the way you can open the door to changing somebody else's perception is by changing your own. Because when your perception is changed, when your viewpoint, like I was saying before, is heightened, widened, lengthened, you can't correspond with that other person on the same level. And if they want to continue to correspond with you, their perception has to rise.
True.
So it's up to them at that point. If they want to correspond with you, then they have to raise their game. Otherwise, they got to stay where they are.
That's true too. Very valid point. Well, thank you guys for joining us today and helping us with this question and this topic. Again, it's just letting us know we have some things that we have to work on, but that's why we are here at Black Families Rising, bringing the Black family to the forefront. And again, I want to thank my panelists, Ms. Jamie and my brother Scott. And with that, I'm going to say goodbye for everyone. Black Families Rising. Keep striving, keep rising. So that's it for this episode of Black Families Rising. I want to thank you guys for choosing to spend this time with me.
And remember to check out our blog and follow us on all social media. And stay tuned for our next coming up episodes.
So until we meet again, keep striving,
keep rising. We are BFR and we are out.
Check game. Let's get love life in the place to be. Let's get no matter where it's going. Live love life. Stack that paper. Be faithful to your wife. And if you lock down, Machiavelli, hold your head. If you lock down, Machiavelli, hold your head. The Don Illuminati.